Hi everybody, welcome back. I wanted to make a video really quick about my paycheck number one check-in. So since my husband gets paid on the 25th of every month, the way that I budget our paycheck is I go from the 25th of the month prior until the next paycheck, which for this pay period happens to be February 25th until March 10th, because my paycheck was on March 11th. So with that pay period, I wanted to break down all of the income, bills, debt payments, expenses, the sinking funds, and the summary of paycheck number one. And spoiler alert, we did not do so good for this paycheck. If you missed my video on our overall March budget, please take a look at the little bubble up here at the top of the screen. This is where I break down what is to be expected for the entire month. And then from here, I break it up into the different paychecks so I kind of know how to allocate the funds. So I wanted to review how paycheck number one went. So let's zoom you in and let's see. So, all of my budgeted amounts that you'll see, a lot of these are similar to what was shown in my March budget video. So I expected my husband's payment to be $3,253.10. It was a little bit more, about $10 more. My paycheck minimum is $1,090 every other week. And then if I work overtime at all, I get paid a little bit more. So I actually got paid on the 25th of February and I worked just a little bit of overtime. So my income was a little bit more, $1,093.02. My husband gets reimbursed for any supplies that he purchases for his classroom. My husband is a teacher, so anything he purchases, he submits it to his school bookkeeper, and then we get reimbursed for that. So I was expecting a reimbursement, which we did receive for this paycheck period. I didn't expect for us to use anything in our sinking funds, but we did end up using some sinking fund money. And this was just like for entertainment. We did a couple of things. So we used things from our entertainment sinking fund, and we also had to pick up some medications. So we used things from our health sinking fund, about $170 there from sinking funds. And we did not get any unexpected income. So overall, we actually received $5,055.70. Now, the good thing here is all of our bills came out as budgeted. So I expected all of these bills to be $978.20, and they all came out exactly like they should have, which is great. Usually water and power fluctuates a little bit, like depending on how much we use, but I actually got the bills for these two things relatively early, so I was able to budget for them exactly. So yay. So after all of that, the bill totaled $978.20. I subtract that from our total income here at the top, and then we are left with $4,077.50. From there, I move on to our debt payments. So I move the $4,077.50 right here. And so our three debts that occurred during this paycheck is our house and two credit cards, one for Wells Fargo and one for Capital One. These are our minimum payments. And whatever we have left over at the end of the month, that's when I throw extra payments towards my debt priority, which right now is the Capital One credit card. Anyway, just like our bills, the debt payments came out just like I budgeted, which is wonderful. Just the minimum payments for all of these. If I subtract the minimum payments of debt of $1,083.54, subtracting that from the leftover, we are left with $2,993.96. Okay, moving along to the top here. Next, we have our expenses. Now, here's where everything went wrong. So, I budget $200 a week for food, and that includes groceries and eating out. I lump it all into one category because if I spend a lot on groceries, we end up not eating out so much, or if we're really busy and don't have time to cook, then we spend a lot on eating out and we don't spend so much on groceries. So it just kind of evens out in the end. So I lump eating out and groceries into one food category, and $200 a week for my family of 4 seems to be okay. But as you can see, for this paycheck, from February 25th to March 10th, that was a 2-week period. So for those 2 weeks, we actually went over budget by $105.31. Looking at it, it was a combination of both. There were times where we ate out and we had food at home, and there were a couple of instances where, like, I would go grocery shopping and then my husband would go grocery shopping to get a couple things, and you know how it goes when the husband goes grocery shopping. He can't just pick up what's on the list. He has to pick up extra things too. So we definitely went over budget there. My husband gets an allowance of $100 every week, and that's just for him to spend on whatever he wants. If he wants to get a coffee or get takeout for lunch. Like I said, my husband is a teacher, so during his lunch break, if he wants to, order lunch or something like that, he's allowed to use that for whatever he needs. This pay period, he went over budget because he actually has a job interview coming up, and so he wanted to purchase a brand new suit. And so a lot of his allowance went towards the buying of his suit. So that's why we went over budget for his allowance. My allowance is $75 every week, so that's $150 for 2 weeks. And I stayed within my budget of $140.38. My allowance is a little bit lower than my husband's because I do work from home. And so since I'm at home, I don't really leave the house as much as he does. He leaves to go to work, so he's more likely to stop for coffee or to stop for lunch. But since I'm at home, I guess I'm not tempted as much to buy those things. But I do spend my allowance a lot of times on like Amazon shopping or Etsy or something. So I do allow a little bit for myself. But I stayed within my budget. Woohoo! Gas. I budgeted $180. This was before the gas prices were going up a lot. I mean, they were increasing, but like, whew, did they just keep getting higher and higher. So it usually, before all of this, it was about $35 to $40 for me and my husband to fill up our cars. So I thought this was enough, but actually we spent $241.44 on gas. That's what, around $60 over budget. That's crazy. But I mean, it is what it is. I don't have a cash envelope or anything for gas because, I mean, you got to pay for fuel. You got to pay for fuel. If you don't have it, you don't have it. So anyway, it's good to know like that's how much we spent. So that way I can keep an eye on that for when I budget for paycheck number 2. I didn't expect for us to spend anything in sinking funds, but like I said, we did spend on a couple of medications, and we did use our entertainment sinking fund. And unbudgeted, here is the kicker here. For unbudgeted, we never budget for it, so 0. But this month, we spent $982.85 in unbudgeted things. That's $1,000 extra dollars that could have gone towards debt. It could have gone towards things, but instead, it like, where did it go? Now, to be fair, out of this unbudgeted, a lot of it was my husband's reimbursement. Like, it wasn't expected within our budget for him to buy school supplies, but I did factor in the reimbursement here. So if I calculate that, $982.85 minus the reimbursement, that still meant that we spent $453.94 just willy-nilly. And what we did was actually our television broke in our bedroom. It just would not cut on. Like we would turn on the TV and then it would reset. I don't know if you guys have a Roku TV and you've experienced something like this, but like it would keep restarting. Like it wouldn't even stay on for 5 minutes before it would restart. So we couldn't watch TV in our bedroom, which, I mean, it's not a need, I guess, but my husband and I enjoy watching shows, you know, in bed before we go to sleep, just to kind of wind down. We might watch a couple of shows on Netflix or something. So it wasn't a necessity, but we did spend about $300 on a new TV. And the other money there that was unbudgeted, my husband went to a flea market and he found a trombone for a really good deal at the flea market. He paid $200 for it, and when he looked online, he saw that that trombone was actually worth $1,500. So he expects to make his money back and then some, so that's good, but right now it's just kind of a loss because he hasn't sold that trombone yet, but he does plan to, so that's good. And then I had to make an unexpected purchase for ink because my printer ran out of ink. So all of that totaled to about $1,000 of unbudgeted expenses, which is just sad. Very, very sad. Okay, and this last section goes towards sinking funds. So usually the first paycheck of the month is when my husband gets paid, and it's usually when the bulk of the money of our month comes in. So usually I fund our sinking funds using that first paycheck. Now in this particular paycheck number one, I was paid the same time my husband was, so we definitely had a lot of income to fund our sinking funds. I had budgeted about $895 to be filled into our sinking fund envelopes, but because of all of these unbudgeted expenses here for the TV and my husband's supplies and his trombone and all those things, I actually could not fill up my sinking fund accounts as much as I wanted to. So let me explain. So health, I am putting in $200 a month, or I expected to, just because I did have my daughter a year ago, and you know, when you have a baby, there's all these bills that come in after the fact, so we got to pay those down. So I put $200 in the health envelope. Gifts, this is like birthdays, anniversaries, things like that, I put $100. Christmas, I want to have about $1,000 saved up by October, November time, because around October, November, we're just like, oh snap, we forgot all about Christmas, and then we end up blowing our November paychecks on Christmas gifts, and then when it's December or January, we are just completely in the red, and I don't want that to happen this year. So I'm putting money away for Christmas. Gonna do it. Entertainment is $100. That's if we want to go to the movies or do something together as a family. Taxes, this is for car taxes, and I only put $10 in there because our tax account actually has a lot of money in there already. We're good to go to pay for our car taxes, so I wanted to put something like just in case things were increasing like everything else is, but I didn't want to put too much. Car maintenance, usually this is for car washes, but I'm putting in a little bit more because my husband's car needs some new tires, so we wanted to bulk that up a little bit. Kids get $75. That's for clothes, toys, anything like that. Personal care gets $50. That's usually for haircuts. Like I say, it's for nails and beauty and all those other things, but really, I don't spend too much on myself, and if I do, I'll use my allowance. So really, this is just like for my husband and son's haircuts. Travel, I like to put $100 because my family and I like to go on vacation, just because like we feel it's better to have those experiences with our family, even if it's just like a day trip to the beach or something. You still got to have that extra cushion. So $100 for travel, and then our cat gets $60 a month because he's on a special food for his diet, and he also has a self-cleaning litter box. Yes, he is spoiled rotten, and that litter box sometimes needs more granules or like a new part or something, so it's a fluffy little amount we put in there. Okay, So I expected to put $895 in sinking funds, but again, we had a lot of unexpected or unbudgeted expenses here. So instead of having $1,880.27 left over, because of the unbudgeted expenses, we only had $715.53 left over. And that was not enough to cover the $895 I wanted to put in sinking funds. So what I ended up doing is I forgot to mention I have a baking sinking fund, but that's just for me, for my personal thing. Okay, anyway, didn't expect to put anything in and I didn't. Okay, so to make this work, instead of putting 200 into health, I only put 100 in there. So at least we've got something put away. And then I also did not put the $100 in the travel sinking fund. I felt out of all of these things, that was one thing we could sacrifice. Also, if you did not see my March budget video, we are expecting a lot of money in tax returns, and a big chunk of it is going to go into our travel fund because we are planning on taking my mother to Japan once this whole COVID thing blows over. So since I knew we were going to put a large amount of our tax refund in the travel sinking fund, I thought it would be okay to just skip on the $100. So saving those $200 spots there, that leaves $695 I stuff in the sinking fund accounts, which leaves a sweet little $20.53 to be rolled over into the next paycheck. Kind of sad, but that's the reality, right? So in summary, our budgeted stuff, our actual stuff, once I subtract bills, debts, expenses, and sinking funds from our total income, we are left with $20.53 to be rolled over into paycheck number 2. Which has already begun, and I'm not going to do a check-in for that until much later, because paycheck number 2 runs from March 11th until, let me check my calendar here. Let's see. It goes from the 11th until March 24th. So we still have a little bit more time. But yeah, thought I would check in with you guys. Wanted to be honest, with you here, because as you know, we all want a budget. We all want to have a good budget, but life happens. It does. And it's all about how we can make adjustments and make these things work out. So I thought I would share that with you. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below or like this video, give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing if you would like to follow along on my family's budgeting journey. I'd like to post videos about every week or so, so please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.